There's no doubt about it, Tua shoulders a lot of criticism from his performance with the Dolphins week in and week out. But there's one thing for sure that Tua does excellent, and that's his ability to handle the RPO game, making quick, decisive decisions and reads. So with that, I wanted to dive in and take a look at one of the most explosive and efficient RPOs from the Dolphins last season of their post-flat wheel RPO. I want to analyze the anatomy of this play, why it works, how it works, and why it allows the Dolphins to get their playmakers the ball in space. So without further ado, let's get into the film breakdown. Taking a look pre-snap here, we're starting to see the picture of this post-flat wheel combination to come together here. We see inside the box, the Dolphins will run wide zone, and then Tua will be reading this backside defensive end circled in black for the zone read. If that defensive end crashes down the line, chases the heel line of the offensive line, Tua will pull the ball where he's going to have that post-flat wheel combination on the perimeter. So the snap of the ball, keep an eye on the D end. See how he crashes down the line of scrimmage here, chasing the heel line of the offensive line? This is where we start to see how deadly this post-flat wheel combination is now. We see to start here with the flat defender. He's jumping down, expanding for width to cut this flat route off here with their orange arrow. Now we start to see that horizontal stretch happen. Now we see the corner here circled in orange. He's got to respect the vertical threat, so he falls off that glance to stay over top of the wheel. And now as we look inside the box here circled in black, we see the box defenders getting stretched out due to the threat of wide zone. Now we're getting a horizontal and vertical stretch, and when you're stretching the defense this many ways, you start to see how wide open these windows happen. And once again, I'm going to let this play roll from the top. This happens pretty fast, so keep your eye on the defensive end. See how he crashes? Tua's going to pull it here. Look at that flat defender expand for width. Look at the corner expand vertically. We're getting a horizontal and vertical stretch, and it's creating window shots for Jalen Waddle to come wide open across the middle of the field. So again, we see how many moving pieces are happening in this play. There's multiple reads going on at once. And again, this is credit to Tua for being quick and decisive with his reads. So once again here, we see pre-snap. We're going to have this post-flat wheel combination again into the boundary here. And our initial conflict defender, once again, is that defensive end circled in white. So at the snap of the ball, we see that D end. He's crashing. He's chasing that heel line of the O-line. This means Tua's going to pull it. And we see circled in orange, once again, that corner. He's staying back in his deep third, staying over top of that vertical threat of that wheel. We see the flat defender, once again, with that orange arrow. He's expanding for width horizontally to cut off that flat route. And again, we see in the box, these guys are getting threatened from wide zone, so they're getting stretched out in the other direction. Once again, I'm going to let this play roll from the top. Obviously, there's a lot of moving pieces. So like I said, that defensive end, he chases the heel line. The flat defender expands for width to cut off the flat route. The deep corner falls off the glance to stay over top of the vertical stretch from the wheel. And like I said, we're pulling the defense in all of these directions to create these massive hole shots to happen. So we've seen the glance get thrown 2 times now. Let's flip gears here, and then let's take a look at what happens when the defense switches up how they cover the post-flat wheel. So once again here, into the boundary, we're going to see that post-flat wheel combination with that defensive end circled in black to be the initial conflict defender. At the snap of the ball, we're going to see that defensive end. He chases the heel line. So now this gives Tua that pull read, and now we see that corner here circled in white. Instead of staying over the top to respect the vertical stretch, he's sitting inside preparing to cut off the glance route. This allows this wide open shot up the sideline. Nobody's protecting the vertical stretch, so Tua drops a perfectly placed ball down the sideline, creating an explosive play. All the play roll from the top. Keep an eye on that defensive end. He crashes, which gives the pull read. Now look at that corner. Look how he looks to jump that glance route. He stays low and inside. Nobody's covering the vertical stretch now. Now we got the vertical shot for another big explosive play for the offense. Here we go once again. We're going to see the post-flat wheel into the boundary here. Now we're going to see it against man coverage. So at the snap of the ball here, we see the defensive end. He kind of plays upfield. He kind of crashes a little bit. Tua pulls it, and now we see this flat route come wide open. It's coming wide open for 2 reasons. We see circled in orange, that corner and nickel here, they're vacating to try to stay over top of the wheel and post. That means there's no flat defender anymore. On top of that, they're in man coverage, and we see circled in black, these linebackers or safeties that should have the fullback in man, fail to pass them off because their eyes are getting all clustered in the backfield with all that backfield motion and backfield action from the wide zone. This allows the fullback to come wide open in the flats. Unfortunately, he can't haul it in. Overall, this post-flat wheel combination was one of the most efficient plays the Dolphins ran last year. And we looked at what happens and what creates space for the flat, the wheel, and the glance. But now I want to touch on the last thing of what does it look like when Tua hands the ball off on this and why it's so crucial that it could create running lanes. So Overall, this play was called probably 80 times from the Dolphins. They only handed it off a couple times. But when they did hand it off, we saw extremely favorable matchups. We see the defense here, especially in this picture. We see the defenders circled in orange. They're vacating the box, expanding for width to help cover that 3 route combination to the boundary. Because of this, we saw in that previous picture that we had 4 defenders for only 5 blockers, giving a huge numbers advantage. Obviously, we're unable to finish a block, so you're unable to pop an explosive play. But when you're creating numbers advantage in the box or on the perimeter, you can see how this is the foundation to create a very explosive play. I'm looking forward to see how the Dolphins will build upon this play, and I'm excited to see how Tua takes a step again in this Mike McDaniel's offense. Overall, though, let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Do you guys think Tua is poised for a major breakout this next coming season? Or do you think the Dolphins are going to struggle? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.